think we're good.
Okay.
We're live.
We're live. I do have the mask on, but I'm probably going to take it down. Amy is 6 feet away from me, probably a little bit more.
Hello.
And when we are closer to contact, I will make sure that my face mask is on. So, if you don't know where we are, we're at Lewis Park. We're going to try and maintain obviously our distance, but we're using the tripod today instead of kind of hand holding it, the iPad. I do move around, so just let me know. If I need to talk louder too, guys, let me know. We'll give it a couple minutes, see if we get anybody popping on.
I say talk louder.
I need to talk louder?
I think so.
Okay.
Steve, does she need to talk louder? You need to let her know.
Yeah, let me know. Let me know. I mean, if I have to move up and Amy has to scoot back a little, we can do that too. So, let me know. See, I got the orange folder today.
Fancy.
But today turned out to be nice, everybody. I was afraid it was going to be raining, but it is perfect.
It's gorgeous.
It is perfect.
Hi, Anna.
I did mention last week that I had never actually been in this park. It's true. This is my first time inside Lewis Park. So
I've been here a lot. It's a great park.
It is a great park. I have never really explored this park. So
Anna says she can hear us just fine.
Oh, thank you, Anna. I appreciate it. All right. So hopefully.
Why don't you explain where we are in the city? Some people might not know while we're waiting for everybody to get on.
So behind me, and if you guys can kind of see, there's a road up that way. That is Radium Street. So Radium Street is kind of a north. To my left, which would be over to the east, is Campbell Hill. Back over to my right, which would be out west, is St. Joe's Way, and then we have Session Street that kind of comes in. So we're north of the square, I would guess. I don't know.
So that way is St. Joseph's Church,
yeah.
And that way is Keystone Hospital.
Yeah. So I'm guessing we're probably a mile, if that, from the square. I don't even know if it's that much.
Maybe, yeah.
But Lewis, the reason we decided to do parks, because I wanted to explain this a little bit, is, well, one, we wanted to get out somewhere different, kind of away from the square, but we didn't really know kind of the history of our parks. What's the oldest, why they kind of chose the places that they chose. So this one, see, these birds are really enjoying my talk right now. So this one was actually established in 1938, and it was called, at first, Northside Park, and then I've heard it referred to as Campbell Park, or Campbell Hill Park, because obviously Campbell Hill Street. But this park was a part of the Works Progress Administration, so WPA, you'll hear me refer to that a lot. If you're not familiar, Amy kind of explained it to somebody else earlier today, probably better than I would. WPA was a program during the Great Depression that President Roosevelt instituted in order to get people working, jobs. And so around Marietta, what you see is a lot of WPA programs to help establish parks, buildings, businesses, and also like furniture making, because we actually do have some furniture at the museum from the National Youth Administration, which is a part of WPA. There are a lot of alphabets, sometimes letters, you kind of hear it referred to as alphabet soup. I'm not going to go into all of those because there's a lot.
They built things. A lot of them, there was a writer's project, so they hired people to write just a variety of different things, research and write for the government, did oral interviews of former slaves. And other people, just jotting down their memories. A lot of important things that we use today came out of the WPA.
Locally too, WPA was putting on, in the 1930s, theater programs. They were kind of the early version of Parks and Rec for Marietta. There was a council for the city that did parks, but WPA was providing the parks and recreation programming that we're familiar with that department doing today. So Lewis Park, I'll tell you where that name comes from, but the park itself is about 5 acres. So if you're not, you
I'm
might
gonna do
have
a
to,
little. We're gonna slowly go around while she's talking.
yeah, that's fine. So it's about 5 acres. It's a really good sized park, and it was filling a need for a place for people who were living north of the square, because there were a lot of mill houses. Not all of them are mills houses, but it was giving kids a place to play that wasn't in the heart of the city. So as I said before, it was started in 1938, part of the works progress, WPA. I keep wanting to say works progress, but I've got all these. We got a new file going for Lewis Park. When they did the grand opening, you ready? This is what happened at the grand opening of the North Side Playground. It was a wiener roast.
Yeah.
I know, I'm all about a wiener roast.
Let's look at the playground.
A formal campfire program with children of all ages participating in various activities carried out in a large campfire. And it consisted of community singing, active and quiet games, folk dancing, and specialty numbers. I don't know what those specialty numbers were.
Specialty numbers?
I know, I don't know what that means, but. So where did the name Lewis actually come from? So Lewis Park, oh, I'm told to move. You could just
with the
direct
playground
me.
in the back.
Tell me. We're informal enough, just tell me where to go. So, Lewis Park is actually named after John W. Lewis, John Washington Lewis. So it was actually a council vote. Council still does this today. If they're going to name a park or a facility after a person, they have to go through kind of this whole criteria process and they vote on it. John Lewis is actually a council person who, at the time in 1939, this park was in his ward, and so he was a council person up until his death in 1944. So from mid 1930s, I should say, till 1944. So the park in 1939, by that point, had slides, swings. You can see, not this exact playground, obviously. Tennis courts, so the tennis courts are still there. A baseball field, which was coming, and facilities available for children of that community. Efforts to build a wading pool. I did post the picture of the wading pool on our Facebook page a couple weeks ago. I don't know the exact location of the wading pool, but
if anybody knows that's watching,
yeah,
please let us know.
I think it was at one of the corners because you can see the houses behind it.
Okay.
So it might have been along Campbell Hill or maybe along Radium, but when I posted that picture, somebody then responded that it was a no filter, no chemicals, like it was
cesspool.
Yeah, it was rank. But it was a little wading pool for little kids, very similar to the ones you see today. There's really not much difference in it. And then a rock house for community scouts. Now the rock house still exists. It's actually to my left. Amy might peer over.
Yeah, we'll walk over there in
We'll
one
walk over
second.
there in a minute.
Hold on one second though. There was a
yeah.
comment that said Socktown past the outfield and left field. So Socktown back here, I'm guessing, okay, going this direction,
Yeah.
you're referring to the Hole Proof Hosiery.
Hole-proof Radium.
Yeah,
Mills.
Radium.
That's where Radium gets its name from.
Yeah.
Later, McLaurin Mills.
Yeah,
so,
it was a mill back there that now are a lot of high-end lofts, right?
Yeah,
And
so
yeah.
kind of more of this area.
Mhm.
And then the Radium gets its name from Radium hosiery socks. So like, if you look at the ads from the 30s, they'll say, get him some Radium, and you're like, get him some chemicals? No, it's socks and footwear and stuff like that. So we do actually have, I think we do actually have a Radium box in our collection.
Yeah,
We'll have to
we
go
do.
back and look.
Okay,
But,
we can go back over to
yeah.
the, I was just going to walk a little bit closer over to the building so you can see what you're talking about.
Yeah. I believe our Instagram page and our Facebook page will have the picture of, scoot behind you, of the engraved stone that Amy saw last week. It's on a different side of the building.
We're not going to go on that side because that's city facilities guys store stuff back here, so we're not going to go back there. But look at that. Isn't that a cool
yeah.
building? I
This
love
sign
it.
says what? City of Marietta Garage,
Uh-huh.
1939.
Yep.
So, there's lots of bees over here right now. I gotta be
Oh
careful.
boy.
But yeah, it's a pretty substantial building.
And when you go inside, it's just like a big barn. It's there's beams for the wood beam ceiling. Actually, it's just one big open space. like a barn. So for people who come out here and play with their kids on the playground and have often wondered, what is that building? That's what it is.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised, since it says 1939, that it was another WPA project.
Well, the architecture is very similar to a lot of WPA and Ccc Camp projects. Ccc, did you mention that? I don't know if you did.
No, I didn't.
That is the Civilian Conservation Corps, which was an offshoot of the WPA, and there was actually a Ccc Camp, which we're going to go a little angled here.
That's
Sorry, because we're on an angle.
That's all right.
The Ccc Camp was located. Oh, come on, film for a minute. Was located on near Kennesaw Mountain, and they would actually live military style, like barrack style. They would get these men to come and train them how to build things, walls, bridges, all kinds of things. And it was kind of convenient because shortly after they started phasing those out, World War II came around. They already had these men who were trained in somewhat military fashion as far as just living and receiving orders and training and that sort of thing. And so the ruins of the Ccc Camp at Kennesaw Mountain are still over there on one of the back trails. You can go, and the mountain has some nice signage that detail the history of. They'll say, oh, this foundation is what, the mess hall, and this was the armory, and this was this. So it's
yeah, we discussed going over there, but that is private government property, so we're not going to go over there anytime soon. Hopefully, when all is said and done, we'll continue these lives and we'll go over there with everybody's approval. Question?
Roy, who mentioned the Sock Town, also says the original water facility for the city is behind the Rock House. We are very familiar with that.
Yes, I'm going to talk a little bit about that towards the end, because that is an important part to Lewis Park's history, which I'll get to. But I just wanted to make sure you all knew that there are rules to playgrounds.
Yes.
And Lewis Park had the same rule, where you had to vote for a mayor of the playground. So we do know in 1940 that Josell Ward was the mayor of Lewis Park Playground, and Garland Harris was the sheriff, and it featured balloting on the North Marietta Recreation Center. So they would vote for the kids who could be the mayor of the playground. And there were also council people such as Sonny Parks, R. Whitlock, Travis Copeland, Betty Underwood, Betty Jo Whitlock, and Tiny Gruber. So if anybody, that's your grandparents or your parents, let us know. I'd love to have heard more. And then they also did that at the, because Lewis Park was a segregated park at the time, they would have mayors for the Lemon Street playgrounds as well. And if you're curious, because I told Amy this, their mayor was Sears Roebuck Weeks. And I'm not lying, that was the top. Beautiful. It is beautiful. Sears Roebuck catalogs, man, very helpful. All right, a little windy, hold on. So, the playground and the park itself continues during World War II, and they kind of need to build it back up, and you see renovations happening. You see during World War II, 1944 is when John Lewis actually dies. And so I wanted to kind of read you guys what they wrote about him as a kind of a declaration. Going back to him, he was actually not from Marietta. He's from, somebody's doing some yard work. So he's from Kansas,
Let's
comes
walk over
to
this way.
Marietta. We're going to move up. So
While you talk, we'll walk. How about that? Why don't we just go back this way? You can talk. Tell your story.
Okay,
while we
I'm
walk.
going to go around you.
Okay.
All right, so born in Kansas, he ends up living on Church Street, and then serves as a council person for many years. Let's get over here. Down here. There we go. So at that time, he is He's working first as an auditor for the L&N. If you don't know what that is the railroads. Louisville and
Nashville.
Thank you, that was the other bill. And so he was really big into the railroads, working part of the Kennesaw Lodge, all these other things, but I don't want to read all of that because that's not super exciting. He was a one-man chamber of commerce. I did not know that.
What?
He was the one that kind of helped with the establishment of the Cobb Chamber, so this is a name you don't hear very often. One day when I do a tour at the cemetery, I will include him because he's actually there. Oh, wait a minute, I forgot. I have a picture.
Oh, good.
It's a newspaper picture, so please forgive the quality. But that is him.
John Lewis, there he is.
And I know you're thinking Representative John Lewis every single time I say that because
You
All right.
can just read my mind.
I know. So here's the resolution about him put on by the city. So he was a part of the board or the city council from 1934 to 1941, and then he came back on for a little bit just before his death. So on March 19th, 1944, it says, "The great ruler of the universe removed from among us one of our citizens and a member of this body, the late John W. Lewis." So that in the death of John W. Lewis, the city of Marietta has lost one of its most valuable citizens, and this council has lost a member who has served it faithfully for many years. He was a member of this council from January 1st, 1934 until the day of his death. He served as mayor pro tem, which if you don't know what that means, if the mayor's not available, that's the person who fills in for the mayor. And then he stayed in that position until 1944. He was the recorder. So before there was a city clerk, he was the one that was doing it as well. And then he was also, it stated, "Be it further resolved that we heartily endorse and concur in the resolution passed and adopted by the Mayor and City Council of Marietta. And it be further resolved that we appreciate the services of John W. Lewis as promotional manager of the Board of Lights and Water in his unretiring efforts to have business enterprises come to and locate in the city of Marietta." So you see that happening, all these kind of things. So the park continues, he's gone. I want you to know that in 1947, the tennis courts suffered a serious loss. This is very important. When the ball machine was stolen.
No.
And nobody was going to be able to have the ball served to them automatically. And so they had to try and find it. I don't know if it was ever found, but
Tragedy.
it was 3 men seen transferring it into a car on the afternoon of its disappearance. I don't know what you do with the tennis ball serving thing, but whatever. Very important to know that they lost that.
There's a lot of private tennis courts around here.
Yeah.
I bet if they had searched some of those backyards, they might have found it.
In 1948 is when they lit the courts so you could play tennis at night. Very, very important. It was actually free of charge for a while, but after that initial time of getting to use the tennis courts under the lights, it would then cost you a rate of 50 cents per hour to use the tennis courts. So that's how they made their money. So they charge you to use the tennis courts.
Don't give our city any ideas now.
I won't. So let me skip on. I wanted to show you guys this. We talked about the wading pool. I showed Amy this ad yesterday. Marietta really wanted everybody to go swimming. Oops, hold on. Here is the ad from 1955. So you had Brumby Pool, Larry Bell Pool, you had the Lewis Park wading pool, locker space, and competent lifeguards.
We can't have incompetent lifeguards.
No.
Let's face it.
It was, if you were under 14, it was 10 cents. If you were an adult, it was 25 cents. And you swim for health, okay? Very important. No roughhousing, you swim for health. So, in 1961, somebody was mentioning the waterworks.
Yes.
So in 1961, there was discussion of getting rid of Lewis Park and turning it all into a larger facility for the waterworks and BLW. They were going to convert the second largest park in Marietta, the first at that point was Larry Bell, into a site for a utilities building, and they would find a substitute area to be a park. This caused such an outrage, which I get it. I mean, if you live around here, you
it's
don't
a great
want
community. Yeah.
another building, you want to keep your park. And so at that point, a lot of people went up to city council and said to them, go find someplace else to put your utilities building. We got to keep our park here. And they ended up, this was early April of 61, and pretty much a week later, council went, okay, we surrender. We hear you. We will not do it. And so they decided to find another site or another building to have the utilities go, and not here on beautiful Lewis Park. If you want to thank people, you want to thank Lester Dollar and French Johnson. They were two that really were vocal.
Hey, we know that name.
I know.
French Johnson.
I knew that name.
Isn't that with the high school football?
So
Basketball? I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of flack right now from all the OMs out there who are going to slap my hand for not knowing exactly what sport he coached.
So another, Amy and I like to do the anecdotal stories, kind of like, I'm sure there are more, but
can we walk around to another site while you read, because it was mentioned and we're not going to go in it, but we could walk around to it? We're just going to walk around to it. Come on.
It's a bit
It's
of
a
a
beautiful day. Tell your story.
Get on the path over there.
Here we go. You know what I'm going to do? Wait a minute. Here, tell your story. We're going to flip it around.
Okay, hold on. Go.
What is that noise?
Oh, it's one of the facility guys, and I'm about to yell. Dear facilities and grounds crew, I love you, but be quiet. I'm filming.
Okay, we're going to walk around to a historic building that a lot of people want to know about in this area. That what in the world is that sound? Let's go this way. Christy didn't want to go in the building. I tried to fight for us to go in it.
I'm not the only one.
But we got shut. I got shut down, which
You did.
happens a lot, so I'm used to it. I try to create trouble, and they. Oh, it's a doggy.
Oh.
It's not Aaron. It's a dog.
Oh, good. At least it's a dog. I can't get mad at the dog.
A sweet little doggy. So, what was your anecdotal story?
Okay, so we all have heard about kids at parks. We all know how this happens. So in 1964, the two 14-year-old Marietta boys were charged early Thursday morning for breaking the floodlights at Lewis Park.
Oh no!
And they were turned over by their parents. Love it.
Oh, that's an option? I guess so.
Yeah, I turned my.
I got kids. I'll turn in.
That's right. The police were tipped off that the youths were breaking the lights by a resident living near the park. Police rushed the scene and caught one of the boys hiding behind a tree. If that was my kid, you got caught behind a tree, I'd be turning you in two. So his companion had fled, but under questioning, he told the identity of his friend. The boy's father brought him into the station, and they were charged with vandalizing 7 places and burglary of the Red Bird Superette on Canton Road. See?
There's a step there. Don't.
I saw it.
Okay.
All right, so one other story that I want to mention before we go over to the White Building, and I show you some other pictures, is I don't normally go looking for death stories. Oh wait, I do look.
You do all the time.
So I did actually find one at Lewis Park. I'm not going to name the names because it was actually in the early 80s, so that's a little recent.
Sure.
But we do know that a 17-year-old boy was electrocuted
Oh, no.
in 1982 when a line around Lewis Park, a guy wire had looked harmless and innocent, but it was actually live, and he grabbed it and was electrocuted through that. Again, I don't normally...
Don't touch down power lines.
Don't step on down power lines. But, you know, they're always...
That's
gotta
tragic.
tell the good stories and the bad stories. We can't just limit.
Something that happened.
All right, so we are coming up to the old Waterworks building. We refer to it a lot of times as the White Building because guess what? It's white.
Yeah.
And a lot of people ask us questions about this. We won't be going inside, but yes, we do know how to. We
Hold on, I'm gonna flip it around here.
Yeah, there you go.
So this is a really beautifully built building, if that's a way to describe it. I'm gonna go to the other side over here.
Yeah, you want to go back.
Architecture is nice. We have new windows, fabulous. And this is part of the city facility, so you know, just like the Rock Barn was. This is as well. We're gonna come back this way. Okay.
So do you want to show them that?
Sure.
So.
Check out this. This is a big cistern. Big. I mean, I would like to know what's in it, but I'm kind of scared too.
I don't want to know what the smell of it is.
You know, to get in it.
Okay, so I do actually have...
Here, let's go this way with that in the background. Okay.
All right. So, I have given... Oh, Lord, all my papers. That's all right. I've given a shout out to GIS before, and I'm going to give another shout out to them too.
Yeah.
So you can go on MariettaGA.gov and go to the online maps, and on the online maps are aerials.
Here's an aerial.
So this is 1961. That's the earliest you can go.
I'm gonna flip so I can get closer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, okay. You have the ball field right there.
Oh yeah.
Here is the cistern that we're staring. It's right at the bottom.
Yep.
But that's, you see 4 tennis courts, ball field, all that. Hold on, is that better?
Can you see the pool up there? Maybe not.
No, I'm wondering if it might be that right there.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
But 4 tennis courts, parking, all that jazz. So let me flip it over. They put in front and back. All right, so 1979. Kind of see a little bit.
Yep.
So you see some differences. That other round, that one, I'm not. That must be water or utilities.
Yeah,
as well.
we are at that one right there.
This one,
Yeah.
right here. This bottom one.
Yeah. So, oh, Jack Shields, he said he responded to the tragedy at Lewis Park. Oh, well.
You would have been a young fella on the police department then, because I saw where it said 40 years.
Yeah.
So, all right. Because Amy and I are getting a little close. I'm going to put this. This is 1983. Again, you can see the ball fields. You can kind of tell how everything looks by the ball fields.
Yeah.
So Lewis Park was not only baseball, but it was softball as well. Tennis, and we'll talk about the dog park in just a second. So, 83. Now this one's a little bit harder to see just because of the way the image is, but this is 88, so we're getting up there. I mean, that was only yesterday, right? I mean,
Yeah,
wasn't that
feels
long
like
ago.
it.
All right, so 97, what you're starting to see is the pathway that we were on. You guys can actually see where it is.
Oh, yeah.
Right here.
We were right right where we were standing. In front
Yeah,
of the ball field.
we were right here at
Yep.
the backstop. Tennis courts, playground, the circular building's still there, and we're right here.
You can see the rock barn too. We didn't point that out. That's
that
yeah,
building.
right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 2003, between 97 and 2003 is when you see the changes. So no longer is that round building here. You've got this is facilities now. The circle would be down here, but you really see the outline, but you don't see the actual field itself.
Parking behind it too.
Yeah, there's parking, and there's parking over here. So.
Okay.
So 2012 is when you see the tents, whatever I'm looking for, covered areas for the dog park.
Mm-hmm.
So the dog park comes in sometime between 06 and 07, and it is the outfield, obviously, of the ball fields. And then there's not much difference in today, but there you go. There is today. Or
Cool.
last year.
Yeah.
But you guys, if anybody lives in the city or, is curious, at the top, again, MariettaGA.gov, online maps, you can go and do like a search, and then you can move the bar across and see how Marietta has changed from 1961 till 2019. All of them are digital. The hard copies, they're at our place, but I haven't cataloged those yet. That's going to take me some time.
But we do have them,
We do
which
have
is
'em.
important. Everything's
And-
not digital. We still have to maintain the hard copies.
We will, because I mean, sometimes it's a little bit easier to have that hard copy and really kind of look. You can't zoom in super tight like you could on Google Earth, but you still get the idea. The later ones, or the most recent ones, you probably could. So,
Do you remember what year this was built? I'm trying to rack my brain right now.
it's like circa 1890,
Okay.
somewhere around there. If you're storage for a few departments for the city.
But it's basically the old Waterworks building, and so they had their offices here for many decades. I don't know when they moved out. Maybe in the 90s, I think.
Pretty much when the facilities building opened. They moved a lot of stuff around and out, but yes, preservation of it would be wonderful, but there's a lot of other issues involved with that, and with the building itself. But yes, we have been in it. We have been in it a number of times. I don't think there's a ladies' room in there.
What? Yeah.
It does have an upstairs, and it's almost like it's got an upstairs that's an attic space, but then an upstairs that's almost like a control room kind of vibe to it. It doesn't have controls, but it has that vibe to it.
Yeah.
But we do have some stuff in there, but we will be taking it out, and some of it, since it doesn't fit our mission, hopefully we'll sell it at the yard sale if we're able to do it this year, fingers crossed. But so we did, Lewis Park and the Waterworks building. But we still need more ideas. I mean, I have a list,
if anybody has any ideas of where you would like us to go next week, we have a couple of ideas.
Keep your mask on. Yeah.
Jack Shields, who's one of our faithful followers on Facebook. Well, that's alliteration.
It is.
He suggested we go into the police department's little museum area. In case you didn't know it, they have one. It's not easily accessible to the public, but so we could go over there and explore that a little bit. Jack, you're going to have to do it with us.
We were debating, because if it was nasty today, weather-wise, that would have been an option. But it's beautiful today. We got lucky.
Had to come outside. But there's plenty of other parks, too, with lots of history.
Also, I was thinking about it, just to FYI, people who live in certain neighborhoods, if you see us with our cameras, we might talk about the history of some neighborhoods.
Sure.
Because some of them we have drawings and plat layouts and things, like other things that we can show, not just, we want you guys to be able to see what it looked like back in the day. Or the original.
And if anybody owns any buildings with old basements they would love, or crawl spaces, or attics that they would like for me to crawl through and share with the world, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, she's more than happy. I just spot her. I just make sure she's okay. But we want everybody to have an awesome Easter, even though it doesn't feel like Easter is about to happen. We want you to keep following us on Facebook. Please like the museum too. That's super helpful. That makes sure that you guys can see what we've got going on. Okay, she moved far enough away. Okay, and then if you haven't, follow us on Instagram, because we do not necessarily post the same images on Instagram that we do on Facebook. We like to keep things
change it up,
shake it up. And then also, I had this thought too. You guys will see on Easter, a vintage Easter picture. If anybody has Easter pictures that they would like to share with us from egg hunts around Marietta, scan them, post them on Facebook, let us see. We would love to see it. Neighbors are going. But any pictures, actually, share with us. We'd love to see them. And then
we're going to wrap up our Great Locomotive Chase countdown this week too. And since the actual anniversary is on Sunday, Easter, we're all going to be busy celebrating with our families. So Monday, we're going to have a really cool, something a little different, on the road Great Locomotive Chase adventure. So
it might be a solo journey, because I'll be honest with you.
Not everybody in our office are adventurous as I am.
Not my favorite topic. I mean, honestly, it's not.
Oh, whatever.
It's fine. We gotta have our own interests. That's what makes it interesting. We can work off each other.
Oh, someone said please do Campbell Hill and Sessions neighborhood. All right, we can look that up and do something about the neighborhood over here too.
We can do that.
Yep.
Let that helicopter go by. But yeah, I was doing a little bit of research when I was doing Lewis Park, but we'll delve more into it next time around. We're trying to make sure we go around the city, get everybody
all the different areas. Yeah.
Covered. So
I like to see the Wright Street, Reynolds area.
Oh, go over to Henry Park, maybe.
Yeah.
We can do that. I was thinking maybe where the old Lyman Homes were. Go over there too. We got a bunch of different options. So, all right, guys, we are gonna end it. We will see you next week. Have a happy Easter, and anything else, Amy?
That's it.
All right, bye, y'all.
Bye.